Hey guys, GameBall06 here, and we're back with another video. In this video, you guys will be seeing the female character prompt that I mentioned in the last videos. In this video, I will be discussing my opinions on Seirei Gensouki Spirit Chronicles, how a realist hero rebuilt the kingdom, and Wise Man's Grandchild, as well as any future plans I have. To be honest, it's been a while since I finished this series, and I don't remember all the major details of the series. In fact, I had to go back to my anime list post to relearn the name of the protagonist of the series. With that in mind, I will do my best to go over my honest thoughts on the series, and I'll make sure I get the names right. So as you guys may be able to tell by the sections of this video, I am really getting into the isekai genre. For those of you who are familiar with this term, this describes a series in which a character is brought to another world. It usually involves a character dying in the real world as we know it and being reincarnated. A lot of times, said individual happens to be gifted when it comes to fighting or magic or whatever may exist in that world. The first one that I watched was The Rising of the Shield Hero, and then I believe Mushoku Tensei shortly came after. Getting back to the topic at hand, Seirei Gensouki starts with this normal guy named Haruto Amakawa who is on a bus, and suddenly the bus driver decides to drive erratically and goes into an active train track, and the bus gets hit by said train. From that point, rather than being reincarnated, it's more like Haruto's soul enters the body of a little boy named Ryo. From this point on, I will try my best to describe my thoughts about the series without giving any kind of spoilers. I want to do this so that for those of you who haven't seen this series and develop an interest as a result of listening to my commentary, I want to be sure that the story is something you can enjoy without knowing what will happen. What I love about this series is how the memories of Ryo's previous life as Haruto mix in with his own past. So in a sense, the personalities of Ryo and Haruto mix. It's a little confusing to explain, so it's better that you simply watch and see what I mean. Throughout the story, as Ryo goes on his journey, he meets a variety of different types of people, and those interactions allow him opportunities to become stronger and strive toward the ultimate goal of his that he's had since before Haruto's death. A lot of the actions within the world during the beginning are influenced by the political effects of Ryo, a commoner who suddenly gets this royal treatment. It seems there are plenty of people that are against him, and this sparks Ryo to leave the country he was born in to seek other things out. Like a lot of isekai, Ryo is one of those who is reincarnated / reborn, whatever you want to call it, who happens to be massively more powerful than the average person within this new world. That's a common trait amongst protagonists of this genre. A lot of them also use their knowledge from their previous life to advance themselves even further to accomplish things that weren't even thoughts within that world that they were reincarnated in. If I were to give the series a rating, I'd go with a 7.5 out of 10. I think the strengths of the series is the pacing and the variety of people and concepts that are introduced. In a lack for better words, the series gives the audience information that explains questions that I myself didn't have until it was brought up. When I think of the series, I think it lacks in comparison to most isekai anime that I'm used to is the development of relationships between characters. Sometimes there's a skip in time or it just feels a little rushed. To be fair, the main character Ryo is a unique protagonist in the way that he interacts with people, and getting close isn't exactly who he is. He's also cold in that way. I think I'll leave it at that for this series. It was quite difficult for me to discuss this series in depth without trying to spoil the series, and hopefully I'll be able to do better in future videos and for future anime, as I'm still continuing to look for anime to watch. As I did for Seirei Gensouki, I will be sure not to spoil any events within the series whatsoever and give my review of the series as a whole. This series is a unique take on the isekai genre in comparison to what I've seen from other series. A lot of them have someone reincarnated or transported to another world, and said individual or individuals get powers and become the strongest within the world. How a realist hero rebuilt the kingdom does differently from the rest is that yes, the protagonist is transported, but the primary focus is Somo Kazuya brings in technology and concepts from his own world and uses them to adapt the Kingdom of All Freedom. For the sake of this review, I'll refer to the series as Realist Hero to keep things short. As the series progresses, Somo is able to approach everything, as the title of the series implies, from a realistic perspective. He is more than willing to throw away the traditions and customs of the kingdom if said routines are in and of itself creating issues within the kingdom, and as a result of his knowledge about politics, farming, and such, he is able to educate the citizens of the kingdom and help them grow and evolve. His renovations end up drastically changing things. What I personally enjoy about the series is the grind that Soma has to go through. He essentially has to start from a shaky foundation and rebuild from scratch. Throughout his journey to rebuild, he also incorporates the magic that exists within the world in the way that suits his project, but he primarily relies on his own knowledge and abilities to get things done. I would say the relationships within the series are a minor focus, but given both the title and the vibe of this series, it's supposed to be all business. The whole grind from bottom to top reminds me a lot of video games, in where you build up your character from the bottom up. In this case, though, there aren't any experts that can help the newbie, Soma in this case, level up or gain anything. Instead, Soma is the one doing the teaching, and he's trying to get everyone to move and operate at his level. The series starts with Soma having to solve one major issue, but as the series progresses, he is slowly able to focus on the other issues at hand, including any new ones that pop up as a result of people deciding to rebel against him. Not everyone approves of Soma's means, so there is inner conflict for Soma to deal with, but that's not such a big deal. That reminds me, I love how none of the conflicts feel too dragged out and there's enough attention on the characters involved. I don't feel like anyone is overshadowed within this series, and they all shine in their own ways depending on the situation at hand. If I were to give this series a rating, I'd go with a 9.2 out of 10. I don't know what I would say is the biggest flaws within the series, but maybe it would be the lack of focus on relationships between characters. But this is honestly a nitpick because, as I said before, relationships are far from the primary focus of the series. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Mushoku Tensei, Wise Man's Grandchild has some minor similarities between Shin Wolford and Rudy's Grey Red. The two of them are both reincarnated and end up having a gift for magic. I'll go over the differences between the two characters. 1. Rudy's is only a prodigy when it comes to magic. When it comes to sword fighting or other forms of combat, Rudy's isn't that great. On the other hand, Shin Wolford seems to be an absolute beast when it comes to everything that he does. With Sheen, he is aware that he was reincarnated, but he doesn't have a recollection exactly as to how he died. Regardless, he does have memories from his previous life in Japan, and he uses that to come up with unique ways to use magic and do all sorts of cool stuff. Because of Sheen's uniquely amazing skills, he is admired by those around him, and everyone is surprised about how he invents new things with such ease. It's funny how Sheen casually talks about his achievements as if they're nothing, and his friends are absolutely shocked to hear the kinds of things that he speaks about. Man, I would really like to see a season 2 for this series. I might have said this before, but you know that a series is good when you're itching to see more of it. This series has a lot. Relationships, comedy, fighting, magic, innovation via the reincarnated protagonist, and antagonist that is causing havoc, and probably even more that I can't think of at the moment. It's great how this series is able to mix in all these different things and truly revolutionize what an isekai could really be. I will say that Mushoku Tensei does pretty well with relationships, but there is really only one that has significant focus, and that's Rudy's and Eris. With Wise Man's Grandchild, there are a myriad of characters that are introduced, and outside of the friendship between them all, there are couples as well as a teacher and student relationship mixed in with their already established friendship, and they mix that in with connections that some of the characters have. The politics within the series aren't too complicated, and it's pretty simple to keep track of all the major stuff that's going on. The overall focus of the series is very good, and I feel that the series is able to have the main focus as well as some secondary focuses along with being able to do some light foreshadowing. Overall, if I were to give this series a rating, I would give it a 9.0 out of 10. If I had to give one criticism to the series, I would give Shin Wolford more obstacles for him to overcome, because it seems that mostly everything just comes easy to him. In comparison to Rudy's Grey Rat, he only had one major strength, and he was average or weak in everything else, so he had to battle with his shortcomings in order to survive within his world. None of this is finalized, but I am thinking of going back into versus battle videos. I'm sure that I mentioned this before, but after seeing Wise Man's Grandchild, I got an itch to get back into it again. The main thing I need to do is go back through the fights and other stuff within Wise Man's Grandchild, the world's finest assassin gets reincarnated in another world as an aristocrat, and potentially some other series that I can't currently think of. If that is something that any of you are interested in, be sure to put down any characters you'd like me to go over. I can also go back through Naruto and do some versus battle with some characters there, but I'm sure there's a lot of those currently on YouTube. Before I forget, let me mention that I did create that poll I was talking about in the last video, and as of writing this, it only has 2 votes. This will be for a future drawing that I do, so if you have any suggestions, you can fill out the form and give me a suggestion in the short answer question. With that in mind, that's it. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, check out my Twitter and Discord, both are in the description. If you want to know what I'm currently doing or thinking about, those 2 places are the best places to go. I will see you guys next time.